Call me cynical, but nowadays, when a company says they do AI, I kind of just assume they've got some sort of chat GPT wrapper within their application, and that's about it. Now, in the last couple of months, Optimizely have been claiming they've got some industry game-changing AI, and in this video, I wanted to find out if this is fact or fiction. So, with our mission clearly defined, let's find out if Optimizely Opal can really deliver on these productivity and time-saving promises we've all been dreaming and wishing about. Before we get to Optimizely itself, I thought it'd be useful for us just to take a few seconds to consider what we're actually trying to optimize in the first place. So in order to do this, I thought I'd walk you through all the steps and the workflow that I personally follow in order to create content on my own website, johndjones.com. The first step on any campaign is always the same. What should the campaign be about? Now, instead of just coming up with ad hoc ideas, I always used to create a list of ideas of what my next campaign should be about. Now, historically, I used to use a spreadsheet for this, and nowadays I tend to use a project management tool. And within here, when it comes to creating a new campaign, I'll find an idea that I like and then start to flesh it out. Now, when it comes to actually structuring the content of my article, I will always create a Google Docs. And in here, I'll put all my research, I'll put the blog content, and basically images or anything else that might be interesting for me. And let's be really honest here. When I say research in 2025, what I really mean is I'm going to go to ChatGPT and I'm going to get the AI to do the majority of my work for me. Now, obviously, another important part of this article is imaging. Now, you're probably going to use some sort of image marketplace. I'm going to use Google search here. So I'm going to pick this beautiful image of me. And then I'm going to use my online photo editor to crop it, adding shadowing, all that kind of great stuff to make sure it looks really good. Finally, I'm also probably going to use my SEO tool to make sure that I'm using the right keywords, the right SEO. And after I've done all of this, maybe I might publish it on a website. Now, in the real world, you're probably going to be working with a team and you're probably going to go through different iterations and versions. And let's be honest, you're probably going to have a lot of that communication over a Slack or over an email. And we're going to go round and round and round until we're happy. Now, when we're happy, we're going to log into our CMS. We're going to manually create our pages based on our Google Docs here. And then we're going to upload our images, manually add in all of our alt text, all of that kind of faff. And then we're going to publish our content on the website. Now, finally, we probably want a few people to actually have a look at our article. So now I'm going to log into LinkedIn to promote my article. So if you're watching this and you're working marketing or content creation, I'm guessing some of the steps in that previous section felt a little familiar. And if you've never gone through the same exercise, I recommend that you try it out, because for me personally, before I came up with the idea of this video, I'd never consciously thought about the steps and the tools that I use to create content on my own website. And surprisingly, I actually use 13 different tools. And after watching that last clip, I was also surprised the amount of manual copying and pasting that I'm always doing. Now, just in case you weren't aware, in terms of the marketing lingo, that process is known as the content supply chain. And one important aspect that Optimizely Opal claims to help with is optimizing the end-to-end process of that content supply chain. So finally, we've got to the good bits. And now let us walk through the UI and see if these bold claims are true or not. One of the biggest limitations I bumped into when I was researching this video had nothing to do with how great an AI feature is. One of the biggest limiting factors on how AI can improve our lives is actually your tool selection. Now, think about it. In the last section, I was using 13 different tools to create my website. And even if each one of those individual tools had some amazing AI capabilities, actually, AI helping me on a day-to-day basis is very limited, because if those tools can't talk to each other, actually the AI can only help me with a small chunk and I'm still doing a bunch of manual work myself. And surprisingly, one of the biggest ways that AI in Optimizely can actually help me in my day-to-day job is actually within the introduction of the content marketing platform. Now, I want to keep the focus of this video on AI, not on content marketing platforms, but just in case you've never heard of this tool, if you go to the Gartner, you'll see 2025, Optimizely has the leading tool here. Now, just in case you're not aware of what a CMP is, its purpose in life is basically to help the content creation process by combining a bunch of tools into a single platform. So take that previous workflow, for example, by using a single CMP, you could get rid of the text editor, the spreadsheet, the project management tool, the image editor, the SEO research tool, and combine it into a single place. Now, interestingly, for AI, actually having a tool like this and combining it with AI actually 20 times its usefulness, because we can actually do AI on everything, not just within a small niche section of our content creation process. Now, the first step on our quest is to come up with an idea for an article. And within the CMP, we can actually track all our requests within this request tab right here. And the benefit of adding your ideas here instead of, say, a spreadsheet is that you've got the option of creating customizable templates directly inside the CMP itself. So I can actually specify the exact fields I want people to think about before they suggest an idea, because this can actually save a bunch of time of going back and forth. Now, when it comes to actually thinking about the idea, in the previous example, if I'm honest, I used ChatGPT. So here I can ask AI directly within the platform, and I can say, suggest 4 articles to use on johndjones.com about Optimizely. It's gone away. It's scanned my website. It's given me this suggestion right here, and I've got the ability to then create this within the platform. Now, for this video, I'm just using the default Optimizely AI assistant, which is powered by Google. But another potential productivity benefit is we can actually swap our language models out here. So you could even use your own LLM. Now, just in case you haven't come across the term LLM or large language model, in very simple talk, all we mean is training the AI up on your own business data, which basically levels up the amount of productivity that the chat can give you. After you're happy with your idea, the next step is to execute and turn it into a full-fledged campaign where we start needing to create articles, promoting things to social media and any other type of marketing activity. Now, obviously, this takes a bunch of different planning, and within the CMP, we can start planning out our campaigns within this plan tab. So within here, we've got a few different views to help us plan out our marketing activities. So the first thing is we have a shared calendar. Now, this could be really useful because you can see exactly what campaigns you've got planned and when they need to go out on what date. You can also see what other teams are working on, which can be a challenge. We've also got the classic Kanban board here. So if you're doing Agile, you can still do your morning stand-ups. You can still do sprint planning. And we've also got things like a shared spreadsheet view. So you can see a list of things you need to work on in sequential order, all that kind of great stuff. Now, when it comes to building a campaign, within CMP, we can click this big plus button. However, we're here to use AI. Now, I'll quickly say that this was the part I was really interested in testing, because we all know generative AI is useful. It might help us automate 20% of a task. However, it's not going to replace us. We still need to manually review things. So the theory being, if we're using a marketing focused AI, a content creation focused AI, instead of a 20% saving, it should be something like a 40 or 50% saving. So let's test out exactly how much of that process we can test using the chat. One of the first things we can use AI to do is to create all the campaign within the CMP for us. Now, one of the things that I like about this workflow is that it's actually prompting me to think about how to create a campaign. And it's not just me asking AI stuff. So you can see here, we've got things like project overview, target, goals, budget, timelines. And this really does focus me in onto the steps that I need to follow in order to create a campaign. Now, one of the things that really impressed me with this process is that the AI is trained on campaign and content creation. Because obviously I have zero idea how you use ChatGPT, for example. But for me, I'll typically ask a question, I might get it refined, I copy and paste it somewhere else, and I rinse and repeat. Now, what we're seeing on screen right now is very much more of a focused conversation that's helping me think about the task in hand a lot better. So as you can see, I'm asking it to create me a campaign on CMS mastery for Optimizely SaaS CMS, and it's prompting me to think about things like, what's the Optimizely angle? Where are we going to create the content? What's the audience that we're trying to target? Is there a budget? When are we trying to get this done? And obviously this type of questioning, you're not going to get it just using a generic AI response. So by using Opal, we can be very much more targeted, and this might be subtle. However, this is definitely the thing which is going to allow our AI responses to be more tailored and specific. So this is definitely the thing which should give us much better responses from our AI that we should be able to use without having to edit as much. Now that we've got a good brief defined, we can now ask the CMP AI to create everything within the CMP for us, including the campaign and all the tasks. And now the AI is finished doing its thing. If we log back into the spreadsheet view, we can see our campaign's been created with our task. And if we click on it, we'll also see that we've got a brief automatically created and looking beautiful. By clicking on the big suggest button in the brief, you can see we can also get Opal to come up with some other marketing related tasks that might be appropriate for the CMS Mastery Summer Promotion. So campaign and brief creation is something that Opal can definitely help with, and we still haven't hit its limits yet, because as well as all this, Opal can also offer task suggestions. So in essence, the related marketing activities that similar campaigns might use in order to get to campaign success. So tasks might be things like write an article on a website. It might be publish this article on LinkedIn. It could be even ask a creative agency to create some wireframes or some screenshots or some images for us. And as you can see on screen right now, once Opal gives you some recommendations, it's just point and click to get them created inside the CMP for you. Now, I was pretty impressed the first time I saw this, because we've managed to automate the campaign master plan. We've got a pretty good brief that's best than I would come up with myself. Also, we've automated a bunch of the steps. Now, the next thing I want to focus on is the campaign collateral. So in this example, this is coming up with the content for the blog on my website. Now, yes, I could carry on using the chat here, but to mix things up, let's switch over to the UI and see if there's anything there which can help us speed up our day-to-day productivity. Okay, so we're back in the UI and I've jumped us over to the Write CMS Mastery article task that we created in the previous step. Now, as part of that automation, you can see that we've got a task brief here. So we've got things like objectives, key messages, all the things we filled in. And basically I can click on this button here and the AI Opal is going to go off and it's going to generate the article content for us. So we've got, a title here, we've got the body content, we've got meta title information, meta description information, and all that at a click of a button. Now, this is basically one way of generating content. We could also just click on this button here, click on text, and from here we can use the writing aid. So again, we can say, I want to generate a title based on a different brief, and we can do things like a blog post, a title. We can define sentiment. So we can say, is it positive, negative? We can do tone, word limits, all that kind of great stuff. Now, this is definitely one way to create content. The way that I prefer is we go here, we go create article from the text editor. And then from the text editor, we've got the ability of using the writing aid. So again, we get access to that dialogue, but also let's say that we write some content here. We've also got the power to do some SEO stuff. So if I click on Boost SEO, you can see that we can do things like a readability analysis on the content we've created, keyword analysis. Obviously here, the length's not great because it's just some double Dutch. And we've also got the word count and body count. So this can be really helpful to make sure that you've got good SEO before you do anything else. So based on my evaluation, I definitely think Opal has some really useful stuff to help us automate tasks in the CMP as well as create content. However, picture this, walking into the Louvre Museum and instead of seeing any beautiful pictures, all we had was some plain text typed in Times New Roman just with our A to Z's. Probably wouldn't be the same. And the reason for that is because when it comes to creating blogs or marketing materials, we all know that visual wowness is important. So we're talking about images, videos, and everything around just some text. So the next thing I want to look at is, can Opal actually help us with the image side of things as well? Our first stop within the CMP for image help is the image marketplace found here. And within here, we can search for different images over different sources. So we can search Google, Getty Images, all that kind of great stuff. Once we've found an image we're happy with, we can then move it over to our digital asset library. So the library tab here is used for storing images, spreadsheets, PowerPoints, Word documents. However, for us, let's just focus on images. And the first thing we can use AI here to do in order to help us with imaging is actually use AI to automatically create an image for us. Now, maybe I'm just super geeky, but I love creating these random images. However, practically, most of the time, I end up working with images that already exist or that I've already created. And within the tool itself, as you'd expect, we can upload images from different sources like Google or maybe Dropbox or like your computer. So for this example, let's say that I upload this beautiful picture here of Alex, the CEO of Optimizely. Look at him there looking all dapper and happy. Now, a cool thing just happened. If you notice underneath that we've got all these tags which have been automatically created, and they're pretty spot on. So adult, blazer, jacket. And the cool thing here is that if we wanted to use this image, say in a web page, we could use these tags to automatically create some of the alt text for us, for example. Now, within this DAM, we've got a bunch of different features like an image editor that I won't cover now. But one really useful thing for this example is that if I click on my image that we just generated, if I go to related assets, you'll see that there's a bunch of automated images that have been created. And we've automatically created a web version, we've got a mobile version, we've got a version more suitable for a carousel, for Instagram, and these can all be automatically created and generated for you, as well as having a auto focus point to make sure that all the image crops look on point. So sadly for you, we are reaching the end of this video, and in classic YouTuber fashion, I've left the feature that I was most excited about to last. And before we get to that, I quickly wanted to talk about publishing. Now, hopefully you can remember in my previous workflow, I had to log into my CMS and in LinkedIn in order to create content in different channels. Now within CMP, after we've created our article, we've actually got the ability to push to loads of different channels at the same time, all in one platform, and this can be done within this publishing tab. So this isn't really AI related, but I did find this really useful because from here we can publish to Insta, LinkedIn, Twitter. I was even able to create a page automatically with an Optimizely CMS and publish it on the website without having to log in anywhere else. So not really AI related, but definitely a massive time saver. In my opinion, Optimizely AI agents are definitely the most impressive AI capability that I've looked at today. Now, just in case you haven't come across this term before, AI agents are basically personal AI assistants that you can configure to do your bidding for you. Now, the reason why this is so super cool is because what we're really talking about here is AI workflow. So if you've never come across the concept of an AI agent before, it's super simple to get your head around. Now, the easiest way to think of them are basically online personal assistants, dogs bodies, minions, whatever you want to call them, that you can configure to automatically automate certain steps in your day-to-day lives. So for example, if we looked at the Optimizely CMP, we could create an agent that would interact with our AI and then automatically tell it to say, convert the response using our brand, tone, guidelines, all that kind of stuff. Now, the reason why agents are going to be so super cool in the future is because think about this. When I'm currently creating content on my website, I've got a bunch of different tools and I need the input and output from all these different tools in my workflow. However, the only way that I can get these different systems to talk to each other is either hope that the vendor has some sort of integration, or we need to call upon a developer and hope they can do some magic to make it all talk. Now, obviously this takes ages, you need development time, all that kind of stuff. Now, picture the future where we had a drag and drop workflow builder using these AI agents, and they automatically knew how to get all these different systems to talk together, and you didn't need to get a developer involved at all. All you could do is just drag and drop, and you can start automating a bunch of your really cumbersome workflows without any effort. And this in the future is going to save everyone a bunch of time. And currently, this is very much at the infancy stage of the idea. And if you do some research, you'll notice it's only the biggest companies in the world that are starting to talk about AI agents, and Optimizely really is up there leading the wave in terms of useful agents that you can use today. Let's now switch back to the CMP so you can see an agent in action. And in order to get going with a brand new agent, we can go to our settings and then we can click on Opal and AI right here. Now, after I do that, you can see I've already pre-configured an agent, which is for my own website. And from here, we can define two things. So first, we tell Opal when the agent should be triggered. So in this example, creating content campaigns and campaign briefs where the word John D. Jones is mentioned. So whenever I'm writing anything and mention my name, the AI agent is basically going to kick in, and we're saying this agent represents my website. It's a blog. It represents technical resources for people. Underneath here, you can see we've got the tone and style of voice, and so on in terms of configuration. Now, the cool thing here is that we really can have multiple agents, and the only limit on what they can do is your own imagination. So imagine we had an agent which took a brief and converted it into French for us, or give it some guidelines and we could do a first pass at compliance. Or potentially we could pass a web page and we can get some suggestions on A/B tests that we could run on our website. Now, there really is a limitless amount of things that agents can do. Now, currently, this is something that Optimizely is building out. So there's going to be more and more features as 2025 goes on. And this is something I'm going to be checking in regularly because there's some super cool things on the roadmap that I really want to have a look at sooner rather than later. Time flies when you're having fun. Plus, I know from analytics that after 20 minutes, people start to switch off. So let's wrap things up quickly. Now, if I'm honest, I've only looked at a small bit of the AI capabilities that Optimizely offers, because a lot of people will know Optimizely for A/B testing and personalization, and they've got some stuff there, which I'm also interested to look at in the future as well. Now, if that's a video that you might be interested to watch, let me know by leaving a comment, by clicking on like, or smashing on that subscribe button. Now, just in terms of my evaluation for today, looking at the content supply chain, the CMP, the AI, I was really impressed about the amount of stuff that we could automate. And I could really see the benefit of the AI in one of these content marketing platforms because of having a single source of truth, which allows us to automate a bunch of those boring activities, really would make my life much easier on my own website. Now, I hope you've got some insight and some inspiration of what you could do with Optimizely. And until next time, peace.